Hi. Therapists have the obligation to maintain medical confidentiality regarding their patients' information or possible legalities could occur. This is one reason why the ability to maintain and preserve confidentiality is one of the most important qualifications human resource professionals must have. In addition, patients trust that their therapists and human resource staff will demonstrate integrity and professionalism in carrying out their responsibilities. Now let's review this case of a patient being seen at a mental health clinic. In this case, we will see the patient's point of view presenting the breach of medical confidentiality. The patient explains, "Sorry for the long story. I am seen at a mental health clinic and I want to review my file, so my therapist gave me copies of my reports at my request. I had to sign a release to myself. I also got copies of all the releases I have signed as well as a confidentiality agreement. I read them when I got home to see my diagnosis and the severity. I noticed that my psychiatric report had been sent to a family physician that I no longer see. I do not have a release of information to that doctor, but I have a release for the clinic to obtain information from that doctor not to share. I confronted my therapist and said that my psychiatric report went to a doctor that I don't see and pointed out what my release was specified, only to obtain info not to disclose, and she started freaking out. She called the vice president of the agency and got me a complaint form and told me that the president will want to meet with me after I filled it out and sent it in. She gave me a patient guide explaining my rights and said that she couldn't do much else for me because she works within the agency. It says on my releases that if my confidentiality is violated, the violator is subject to civil and or criminal penalties pursuant to federal and Iowa code. I sent the complaint form out today and found this site. I wish I had found it sooner. I am really upset about this whole deal and do not know what to do. I am handicapped and don't have the money to hire a lawyer. Your advice would be greatly appreciated." Okay, it's clear that the patient is very upset about what has happened with her medical records. This situation is an obvious confidentiality violation of the patient's rights. Now let's take a moment to reflect on what has happened. The patient had a release for the clinic to obtain information from that doctor, but not to share information. Inadvertently, the staff member had shared confidentiality information with someone without proper patient release. Now let's identify what could have been done differently to avoid these problems. Well, a clear policy or procedure should be created on how to review release records. A check sheet or list could be created for a quick reference and placed in the medical file to avoid a future liability. If the staff member were to properly review each release record, the liability may have been avoided.